Hello and most welcome to 1248 of the Heidegger series. And I will now continue on the book. There will be a third summary put in 1249 or 1250. I'm yet to decide. But now we continue and I hope you had some help with the summaries I added. This down for safety. Page 68. The point is not that we can find in the theoretical study of society and history the solution to our enigmas. It is that as a theme and variations, the same riddles reappear each time with a distinct character in each domain of inquiry. Because, however, these problems appeared in social and historical studies earlier and more clearly than in physics and cosmology. They provoked the development of habits of mind, of stratagems of thought that may prove useful to natural philosophy. Students of society and history have not found the solution to the problems that concern us here. Nevertheless, the discoveries that they made and the setbacks that they have suffered in their more long-standing search can help light our way. In this pursuit, the mind can stock itself with intellectual resources richer than those that the tradition of physical science make available, with which to confront the task of natural philosophy. resources with which to reimagine the relation of laws or other regularities. To states of affairs, of history to structure, and of the repetitious to the new. It is futile to look, as natural scientists are accustomed to do, to mathematics for inspiration in the solution of these problems. What we find in mathematics is a peerless body of conceptions of the most general relations among features of the world, robbed, however, of all the phenomenal particularity and temporal depth. A lifeless and faceless terracotta army. Mathematics is powerless to suggest how nature can escape any one established order without falling into anarchy. How the rules of nature can change together with the rule phenomena. How there could either ever be something new in the universe that is not just a ghost-like possible, a pre-reality, one waiting to be made actual. once we form views of these matters, we might find in mathematics instruments with which to represent them or invent new mathematical or non-mathematical representations. If the analytical instruments that we need are not yet ready to hand. Guidance can come from our reckoning with all of reality, social as well as natural. Through such confrontation, we can broaden our sense of how parts of reality may connect, and how something that exists may give way to something that never existed before. Consider the status of structural change and of law-like regularities in both classical European social theory and in contemporary positive social science. The origins of modern social thought lie in the work of thinkers like Montesquieu and Vico, who developed against the background as old as those of Aristotle's Politics. The view that social order can take radically different directions. Each of these directions draws in its own way on our existing predispositions. Each makes possible certain forms of life, encouraging the development of particular powers and varieties of experience, while discouraging others. Each relies for the integrity of its characteristic institutional arrangements, on the cultivation of distinctive virtues or forms of consciousness. It was the revolutionary accomplishment of the social theory of the 19th century to carry this conception into a more far-reaching claim that the structures of social life are made and imagined. They are not to be treated as natural phenomena, as part of the furniture of the universe. Vico remarked, that we can understand the arrangements of society because we made them. if their mutability imposes a constraint on the understanding, it also opens an opportunity that we are denied in the study of nature. The opportunity to know the structure of society from within. In the manner in which a creator may know his creation. The thesis that the structures of society are made and imagined has one of its many corollaries, the appreciation of structural discontinuity and structural alternatives in history, the most accomplished and influential expressions of this insight in classical social theory was Karl Marx's critique of English political economy. What the economists took to be the universal laws of economic life were, by the terms of this criticism, only the laws of one particular mode of production, capitalism. They were, in the conventional language of today's philosophy of science, effective rather than fundamental laws. The false universality claimed on their behalf render them misleading even for the historically specific domain to which they properly applied. The idea that society is made and imagined can then be deepened into a view that has yet another range of implications. All the arrangements of society, its institution and practices, as well as the conceptions that represent the established order, as an intelligible and defensible plan of social life, amounts to a frozen politics. They result from a temporary containment or interruption of our struggle over the four terms of social life. Politics understood more broadly than contest over the mastery and uses of governmental power. A corollary of this thesis is that the structures of society and of culture can exist in different ways. The harder they are to challenge and to change, the more they assume the false appearance of natural phenomena. How true. How very true. This is a fantastic line here. The harder they are to challenge and to change, the more they assume the false appearance of natural phenomena. I think this is the best quote from the book so far. The easier they are to reconstruct in the midst of the ordinary business of life, the less they can wear the semblance of natural objects. According to this view, we can change the quality as well as the content of our arrangements. We can so organize them that they enable us to shorten the distance between the ordinary moves, that they enable us to shorten the distance between the ordinary moves that we make within an institutional and ideological framework that we take for granted. And the extraordinary moves by which we revise pieces of that framework. by taking the arrangements of social life in this direction, we make change less dependent on crisis, weaken the power of the dead over the living, and strengthen our mastery over the otherwise entrenched regimes of society and culture. The idea that the structures of society represent artifacts of our own creation, so powerfully evoked in the work of Karl Marx as well as in many other currents of classical social theory, failed to develop into such a broader account of social structures as frozen politics. It was stopped from such an evolution by its juxtaposition in the work of Marx and others. With ideas that limited its reach and compromised its force. These compromises were the illusions of false necessity. Three such illusions have exercised paramount influence. The first illusion has been the idea of a closed list of alternative institutional and ideological systems. Such as feudalism, capitalism, and socialism. Available in the entire course of human history for the organization of society. Every society must belong to one of these types. In fact, there is no such close list of types of social, political, and economic organization, every society must belong to one of these types. In fact, there is no such closed list of types of social, political, and economic organization. The impression that there is one becomes plausible only to the extent that each type is defined with so little institutional specificity that the definition can apply elastically and lose explanatory power. The most important example of this misunderstanding lies in the equivocal uses of the concept of capitalism. When defined at the level of institutional detail, required to give it the power to explain the economic, political, and discursive practices of a particular social world. An institutional and ideological settlement, like the array of such settlements that we traditionally label capitalism, ceases to exemplify a type that we can plausibly take to recur across a wide range of social and historical circumstances. The second illusion has been the idea that each such type is an indivisible system, all the parts of which stand or fall together. Politics must therefore be either the reformist management of one of these systems, or its revolutionary substitution by another system. For example, feudalism by capitalism. In fact, the formative institutional and ideological contexts of social life change step by step and piece by piece. Change that is fragmentary and gradual in its method can nevertheless be radical in its outcome if it persists in a certain direction and comes to be informed by a certain conception. Such revolutionary reform is the standard mode of structural change in history. The wholesale replacement of one institutional and ideological order for another amounts to no more than the exceptional limiting case. The third illusion has been the idea that higher order laws of historical change drive forward the succession of indivisible institutional systems in history. As there are effective laws governing particular institutional systems, so there are fundamental or meta laws guiding the movement from one system to the next. In Marx's social theory, they are the laws of historical materialism, as summarized in the Communist Manifesto. The interaction between the forces and the relations of productions that anoint a particular social class as the bearer of universal interests of humanity in overturning the established relations of productions for the sake of the fullest development of the forces of production. If such meta-laws existed, they would endow history with a pre-written script. The script may be susceptible to discovery only in retrospect or at least late in its enactment. There is consequently no legitimate role for pragmatic thinking. The imaginative construction of the adjacent possible. History supplies the program. I put a little dot there. Sorry about that. So Roberto Mangabeira Unger uses the parallel from the social science, which had a shorter spell of this idea of laws for about 100 years, and uses that, I would say, to help us understand that the tendency is exactly the same as with the laws in physics, cosmology, and the very, very good point that the less you can falsify the ideas of laws, the more natural, unchangeable, stable, static they be perceived. I remember a quote somewhere, see if I can find who said it, or if it is anonymous. There is no escape ever from the second law of thermodynamics. And this law, you might remember, when it came, it was so strong that it lured or tricked or pushed a great numbers of scientists and others to take the fatal turn of ending their own existence. Because in this law-like structure that, especially in the end of the 19th century, was so real, so absolutely impossible to loosen up or make more flexible. When then we discover the second law of thermodynamics, that the world is eventually something that will not persist and go under, it led to these ideas. There will be summer in the next. I say thank you very much and have a very pleasant morning. Bye bye for now.